Good morning and welcome to the Morning Spotlight podcast. I'm your host, Mike Ham, coming to you as always from the Spotlight Studios in Morristown, New Jersey. It's Tuesday, and what do we do on Tuesday? We talk real estate. We got a really cool topic today. We're talking the office markets. We got a great panel, so let's meet them first, and then we'll get started. First panelist is a senior principal and director of interiors at HOK, Lisa Brinkman. Lisa, welcome.
Morning.
Thanks for coming on. Second panelist is an associate at Colliers International, Steve Graziano. Steve, thanks for coming on, bud.
Thank you for the invitation, Mike. Good
Absolutely.
To be here.
As always. And last but certainly not least, Air Force veteran, business development manager at BE Furniture, Brent Kozlowski. Brent, welcome, man.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. And good morning, everybody.
So quick tip, or not tip, quick point. All three Morning Spotlight guests. This is only the second time we've had three Morning Spotlight video, like the LinkedIn videos. Only the second time we've ever done that. So you guys are in the Hall of Fame. I don't know if you knew that, but I'm expecting a lot. I'm expecting a lot from this panel. So
We are so honored.
yeah, well, I'm honored just to be in the presence of you guys. So, all right, so let's get started. So the office market. I haven't been into an office in 5 months. I'm sure some of you are the same. I'm sure people listening are the same way. So it's a very interesting market right now, and you're seeing a lot of different things happen. Towards the beginning of this, or I guess early on in this, Twitter said that all their employees were going to start working from home. But then just a couple weeks ago, we had Facebook sign a 730,000 square foot lease at the Farley building in Manhattan. So Steve, since you're on the broker side, so give us just like a broad sense of what you're seeing in the office market right now.
Yeah, of course. So as you would imagine, with all the recent breakouts in the COVID-19 and everything taking place today, the office market did definitely slow down towards the earlier side of this breakout. Most transactions that we were dealing with and working on were either put on pause or postponed for several months. So it definitely did slow down a bit. However, after a few months, it's starting to seem as if things are picking back up. Activity is picking back up. We're getting calls, inquiries from various different brokers on a number of our assets that we represent. So again, not nearly what it was pre-COVID. However, it's trending in the right direction back towards, kind of that area.
Gotcha.
I will say, I know, Twitter did announce that they're allowing employees to work from home, in the future. With that being said, they did not shed, to my knowledge, any of their office space. So I believe that they were just offering their employees the ability to work from home.
Right.
However, they didn't shed anything. So they still, remain tied to those leases that they have signed previously. So, every day we've been hearing more and more companies go remote, but again, nothing has really happened to the office space. So that was
great. That was a good, brief, succinct analysis. So now we're going to flip it over to Lisa, Brent, and then Steve will get you in at the end of this. Just from your field. So Lisa's an architectural firm at HOK. Brent's in commercial office furniture. Steve is obviously on the broker side. So Lisa, we're going to start with you. What are some topics of conversations you're having with your clients right now?
I think what we're seeing is a shift from people being very tactical to being more strategic in their thinking about workplace and what the workplace is going to be, why people are going to come back to the office, and how they need to design their spaces in order to support the collaboration and the experience that people are going to want when they come back to the office. Another big topic of conversation is technology. How can they support their employees with technology to do their wellness check before they get to the office? Why have someone come all the way to a location only to be turned away because their temperature read was not acceptable? So I think there's a lot of technology focus right now, and much more strategic thinking rather than the tactical, like, okay, we need to put barriers up everywhere so that people can come back to the office. I think reality set in at about 6 weeks when we said, this isn't a short-term situation.
No,
And
it has not been short term.
right, and we need to start thinking longer-term, big picture.
Right. How about you, Brent?
Yeah, I mean, mainly what we're dealing with now at our firm is safety and comfort. You know, Lisa and Stephen are going to have two different degrees of safety in an office space that they feel safe, that they can operate off of, where they feel like they can come in the office or they shouldn't. They should stay remote. So what we build our whole game plan around in our COVID response package is developing the highest level safety protocols and discussing it with the end user. And then from there, they pick and choose what they feel is necessary. So whether it's higher panels, air purification systems, the social distancing, larger cubes, we essentially try to guide them to a solution that basically maximizes safety within the space and eliminates any exposure to a potential virus. So we focus on the actual tactical aspect of signs in the workplace, educating your employees, body temperature scanners. We help our customers to implement those in every project we go into, and it depends on, you know, what they feel is necessary as well as our recommendation.
Right. And then how about you, Steve? Round us out on this question.
Yeah. So my team and I represent both landlords and tenants. So to tackle this question on early on in the COVID-19 breakout, on the tenant side, a lot of our clients and conversations have been centered around, one, how long do we expect this to be taking place? You know, what types of actions can we take to ensure that we're protected in the future? So whether that's, you know, holding off on signing a lease for the next 6 to 12 months, you know, just renewing short term, kind of as a Band-Aid solution to kind of solve the issue, and then bring it back up hopefully when a vaccine comes and, you know, things settle down. Towards the landlord's perspective, early on, we were dealing with a couple of our clients reaching out. They had tenants within their portfolios that have reached out looking for some sort of rent relief. So, you know, holding their hands, talking through some different ways to structure transactions, you know, to afford the ability to, whether that's, you know, half rent today and extend the lease on the back end, or just rent deferral for the next, you know, 2-3 months and extend that lease just to amortize the payments. They've been really all over the place. At this point, it's really a big topic of question with our tenants is, you know, how is the subleasing market right now? Does it make more sense to take a sublease that is, you know, recently been built out, tenant just took space, and then the tenant actually, you know, went out of business? That's also, you know, a big conversation we're having right now. We have seen an influx of subleases come back on the market in varying size. You know, they're not just 2, 3, 4,000, that they're upwards to 50,000 and plus. So it's really just how can we protect ourselves for the volatile, you know, cycle that's coming.
Right. So next question I got here. So Brent, we're going to start with you on this one. I mean, maybe you touched on a couple in the previous question, but what are some things that your clients are looking for assistance with right now?
I mean, essentially when it comes to the COVID protocols, it varies greatly between customers. You have one customer, I had a customer who had the virus and essentially recovered. We went through the floor plan. He said, I don't need any protocols. Everyone's going to be safe. I think they're socially distanced enough. Fair enough. Then we have other customers who are like, hey, give us everything. We want the signage, separation, you know, rebuild the space. We try to provide temporary solutions because none of us really know the future of the office space for sure. There's speculation. We don't know what's going to go on. So we're trying to kind of inch people in the right direction to say, if we go back, it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg to convert your space back to what normal could be at that point, you know, or what normal was in the past prior to COVID. So that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing just a large spectrum of people with different comfort levels, you know, as far as ownership goes in a company, saying, yeah, we either need it or, you know, somewhere in between.
Right. How about you, Lisa?
So I think we're starting at, you know, I said we're seeing companies going from the tactical actions to the more strategic actions. And I think a lot of the conversations we're starting to have with clients today is how do they launch surveys to really understand their employees' desire to return to work, what they want when they return to work, where we can help them launch the survey and help them with analyzing the results of the survey. Portfolio strategy, which ties into a lot of what Stephen is talking about, is what should they be thinking about? Is it a hub and spoke model? Is it reduced square footage and maybe putting space on the market based on how many people are going to be coming back into the market? And then we're also seeing a lot of, especially the large organizations, really spending some time and effort right now in looking at workplace of the future. What is it? Because I think, again, driving it, for the companies that didn't have work from home programs that now have seen that it can work successfully, but also want to bring people back and have people have that level of option, is really understanding what that kit of parts is for the future.
Right. Steve, round us out again, buddy.
Yeah, of course. So as brokers, all we really can do is educate our clients on all the potential options out there today. And at that point, they, as business owners, they have to make the decisions. So a lot of the assistance that we're providing right now is pretty much just laying out every potential scenario that can take place, educating them on what differs between each scenario. And then again, just get them to feel, comfortable making a decision in such a chaotic, crazy time. No one knows what the future holds. So again, just laying out any potential option, and at that point, they got to make a decision. So
right.
Yeah, education is key right now.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So just a quick question for you, Steve. Maybe we're going to get to this at some point, but it just popped into my brain, so I'm going to ask you. So you mentioned, how you talked about Twitter and how they haven't offloaded any space.
Yep.
So you're talking about tenants that are looking to do some short-term solutions. Are you seeing tenants that are trying to unload some of their space, like maybe shrink down the space? Because that's one thing that I've been interested in is like yes, the work from home model it seems like it's working for people in different industries and different capacities and all that kind of stuff. But like if you reduce the space, you also reduce the distance that people can socially distance.
Exactly.
So are you seeing any reductions in space, or is that stuff pretty much staying the same and everybody's just in like a holding pattern right now?
So I really think it depends on which industry you're in. Some industries are more favorable to the work from home. Some, are not very conducive whatsoever to be working from home. I always make the joke, people who have kids at home, they are very, very excited to get back home, get back to the office rather.
Yeah.
They're done, with the teacher duty, the daycare duty, everything along those lines. But we are in fact seeing tenants, say, hey, we can most likely section off, 20%, maybe 30% of our employees, push them to work remotely, for the next couple of months and into the future. So, they'll downsize a little bit, but at the end of the day, to that point, I would think, 10 to 20% of workers can work remotely. However, with all the safety precautions and everything that's taking place today, before COVID broke out, the big trend was kind of decreasing that square footage allotted to each individual employee within the office. That is not the case anymore. I think the bench seating trend is completely out of the picture.
Yeah.
Where it's a long table and you pack in as many employees as you can, like a can of sardines. Mm-hmm. I think the square footage allotted to each individual employee is going to increase, which then will, balance out the decrease in space. So I really do think it's going to balance out in the future. I think it's a little too early to tell in terms of what that looks like.
Right.
I'm just going to add to that. So, all the surveys that we're seeing coming back from people, upwards of 80% want to come back to the office, but not full time. Very small percentage want to come back full time. Mm-hmm. To Stephen's point is, we're going to see the square foot per person is going to be smaller, but the square foot per seat is going to go up.
Yes,
because
gotcha.
We're going to need some more space. We're going to serve more people because they will share the spaces, okay, and rather than having an assigned seat. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing, pre-COVID, we were seeing people going down to anywhere to 120 square feet per person. We've actually done a bunch of studies, and it's upwards of 240.
Mhm.
So at the end of the day, what's going to reduce the square footage or the portfolio square footage is really going to be the numbers of people that are going to come into the office at any given time.
Right. Gotcha. All right. So we're going to get into some protocols that are being taken by some of your clients. So Steve, we're going to start with you since you're pretty fresh.
Yeah.
So talk about landlords. Like, what are some protocols that are being taken by landlords right now?
A lot of the protocols, as you would imagine, are surrounded by sanitation efforts in terms of sanitizing each individual desk, hallways, anything that might be touched by somebody on a daily basis. So cleaning, that the charge to cleaning and cleaners has increased, just because they got to do it way more frequently. Traditionally in an office building, you would probably have a cleaner come once or twice a week, maybe.
Right.
It's not every day. That's no longer the case. You need to sanitize each individual surface on a daily basis just to ensure that those tenants are safe within your building. You never want a situation where a COVID breakout comes in the building because you just didn't take the necessary precautions to sanitize everything, and something happens.
Hand sanitizer everywhere.
Right. If you can find it,
Yeah, seriously. Think about the cost that all these landlords are investing into strictly hand sanitizer.
Right.
Just to get everything clean. It's a high cost. It's definitely increased drastically.
Yeah.
I think I have 6 bottles next to my desk, like just surrounding me. Every time I turn around, I'm like, oh, hand sanitizer, touch something.
Yeah.
I think I need some, so I might come pick some up from your office there, Brent.
We got you, man. Anytime.
Anytime I go into a building, the first thing I do when I come out, get in the car, hand sanitize up, get everything good, wipe the steering wheel, wipe everything down. So you got to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
Crazy.
So Brent, from a furniture perspective, what are some protocols being taken by your clients?
So a lot of the protocols are the social distancing, like we were discussing before, the 6-foot safety distance between people, the benching systems. You can still utilize those in the space, but it's going to be on a staggered basis, like one person here, other person across about 6 feet over here, back and forth. So it's maintaining that distance, wearing your mask at all times when you're out of your personal zone. That's one that we implement when we are in the office, because we are partially in and out of the office. Obviously cleaning, we have cleaning services come in every day, even throughout the day. You have the temperature scanners. When we walk in the door, you put your face up to it and it tells you, you're good to go, or they shouldn't be letting you in. As far as just walking directions, walkways, everywhere else, just to minimize any contact between people as much as possible. In common areas such as break rooms or anything, really limited access to that. Because if you have a coffee maker in the corner of the room, how many people in a day are going to touch that coffee maker? So I pack my own personal cooler and keep my own cold brew in my cooler, my desk. It's a huge cooler.
Cold brew? That's nice. That's fancy.
I had to, because I can't get hot coffee there unless I bring my own Keurig or something.
Yeah,
so I just
true.
keep it all in a cooler just to maintain my own zone, just to minimize the risk overall. So we really try to implement protocols that are just keep safety at the highest level in the workspace.
It kind of go off that as well. With all these protocols, I think when people do in fact go back to the office, you're going to be seeing signs everywhere. Everywhere you look. You're not going to be able to escape them. 6 feet, 4 people to an elevator tops.
Right.
So
the footprints on the floors, you see it like supermarkets
arrows.
and stuff.
Yeah. Etiquette signs. Please, our office in New Jersey is rather small, and I am convinced that we have a sign every 2 feet for something. Like, enough with the signs. Yeah,
well, because you forget sometimes. Like sometimes you just like go back into your mode of just like, you forget, and you just like want to go back into what you know to do, like how you've lived. For me, 30 years, like doing the same thing every day for 30 years, and now all of a sudden I have to switch that. You know what I mean? So, but Lisa, we're going to stick with you still from a technology perspective. I'm interested in that. So like, what are some technology protocols that your clients are taking?
Yeah. So there's lots of apps that are coming out. I think I mentioned this, why it's one thing for somebody to have a temperature scanner when you walk in a building, but why should somebody have to get that far, especially when you're located somewhere where somebody has to take mass transit. So we're starting to see more and more, and actually at HOK, we're getting an app ourselves where if we're going to plan to come into the office, we take our temperature on the app, it submits it, and we fill out a health questionnaire on the app, and it submits it, and then we're approved to go to the office if we meet all the criteria. So, well checks, room reservations, automated and voice-activated services for conference rooms to start the AV equipment and so on. Anything that people have to touch. So we need one to do the coffee pot, Brent, because, somewhere along the line you'll be able to say,
I know a guy.
Yeah. I've claimed the coffee pot in the HOK office since I'm the biggest coffee drinker. I said, I'm the first one in. I'm going to make the pot of coffee. I'm taking the whole pot to my desk. And everybody said, okay. And then also food service apps. So companies that have larger facilities where they have a cafeteria, and probably landlords as well, where they have a cafe space and so on, apps for people to order their food and
Right.
kind of have a hands-free pickup. So we're seeing real opportunities for technologies that have kind of been out there a little bit on the fringe, really becoming ones that are in demand.
Gotcha. All right, Steve, question for you. How do you envision this? This is the big question. This might be the biggest question of the whole episode. So how do you envision this affecting the office market, particularly like a suburban versus urban, location?
I really think, I truthfully think that this is going to benefit the New Jersey suburban office. Before this happened, the downtown transit-oriented markets were taking off, which had, access to public transportation. I don't really think that's going to be the case necessarily anymore. I think it's more so going to be the traditional suburban office where you can drive to it. You don't have to take mass transportation at all. Smaller buildings, say 4, 5, 6-story buildings where you don't even necessarily need to take an elevator. You can take the stairs right up to your floor, walk right in. I think that's going to help a lot, just not only from people getting sick, but just a time management aspect. I mean, consider you're going into an office in New York City. You're in a skyscraper. You get to the building. It could take upwards to an hour for you to get from the lobby to your desk.
Yeah.
So it's like it's taxing on a lot of time. And then when you in fact go and leave, it's another hour to get out of the building. So I think, some of the suburban offices offer some benefits in that perspective where, people are driving to work. You can walk right up the stairs. You don't have to take an elevator. You don't have to be touching too many things. And I really do think that a lot of firms are going to be considering New Jersey from New York. We've seen it firsthand. A bunch of inquiries we're receiving right now are in fact New York tenants, testing the waters, kind of exploring what suburban New Jersey has to offer and, make a decision from there. I really do think it's going to benefit the suburban market drastically.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. So obviously this has affected just about every industry in some way. In some cases, like if you sell hand sanitizer, you're crushing it. If you own a liquor store, you're probably crushing it too. I know because, so from a title insurance perspective, this has definitely affected my business, but I'm interested to hear from you guys and how it's affected yours. So Lisa, maybe we'll start with you. So how has this affected, HOK's business?
So certainly early on, we saw a lot of our projects go on hold. To Stephen's point, people saying, "Well, maybe we're not going to sign that lease yet. We're just going to stay in place." So we saw a slowdown in project activity, and then, of course, when the construction industry shut down, that even slowed things down a little bit more. For us, we used it as an opportunity to rethink and refocus on how we could support our clients through this, and really spent a lot of time issuing thought leadership. And I know, Colliers has done that, Brent's organization has done that, is really, we had a motto. We didn't want to feel like we were vultures that were, kind of, coming in and saying, oh, you want to build a wall and reduce your space. We really wanted to spend time for helping them understand the impact on the workplace and the things they needed to be thinking about, what conversations they should be having with their landlords about what is the landlord going to do. It was less about what do I need to do in my space, but really what do you need to think about big picture. I think Stephen's illustration of it's great, you get to a skyscraper. I had this vision of everybody coming back to work in New York City and mobs of people lined up around the block, waiting to get into the building because you could only put 2 people in an elevator or 3 people, whatever the magic number was, based on the size. So it was really trying to focus on helping companies rethink not just their office, but the journey of people from their home to the office, to once they got there, and then how do you get into the space. So certainly, we've seen a slowdown. I do think we're starting to see a little bit more activity. People are, there's an opportunity here for people to spend the time, rethink what the office needs to be, and while they're not in the office, make the changes. Right. And I think people are starting to recognize that.
Definitely.
I agree with that.
Brent, how about you? Completely. Yeah.
Well, being that we're a solutions-based organization, we basically walk into a customer and we try to discover their needs, not just their wants. During the time when COVID hit, the world stopped, completely. Our entire industry stopped, the whole entire world did. And we essentially went away from furniture into the solutions in regards to COVID. Where does it make sense for us to help you? How do we strategize for the future? Like Lisa said, the big picture. What are we looking at a year down the road? Office furniture lasts 15, 20 years. How do we plan for that future if COVID all of a sudden in 6 months is gone? We find a solution, everything's good. How do we open up that space and everybody's just back to normal? You have business development individuals like us who are fine with working remote, but if you're in a design space where you have to collaborate with people, how do we map that out for now temporarily and then look at the big picture down the road at the same time? So it's basically putting all the pieces together to a solution that makes sense for the end user long term.
Right. I think I would sign up for 6 months and this is gone forever. Like I would sign up for that right now.
I think we all would right now.
Like you would be both.
I mean, I would grind through that 6 months easy. Like it'd be like nothing because I'm a pro now. We're all pros. We know what to do.
We've almost been there already for 6 months, right?
I know. Yeah. What's another 6 at this point? Tack it on at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've had just like Lisa, we basically follow in line with the brokers and the architects. So once everything kind of paused, construction paused, same thing. But our projects were still going on. We were still finding work, we were still finding customers and finding people that needed help during all this. And it's been good during the whole entire process. Not what it usually is. Right. But, we're getting there. Yeah. We're getting back. The world's slowly opening up.
Yeah. And how about you, Steve? How has this changed your business?
It's definitely made it a little bit more tricky getting transactions completed on a tenant side, getting business owners obviously to make longer term decisions. Keep in mind that the average length of a lease is 5-7 years, so that's not a 2-month, 3-month thing. You got to really predict the future almost to be comfortable to sign a lease right now. So a few of our clients, have let their leases lapse and, move their employees remote for the time being as we kind of reconsider the lease and things of that sort. But, any new deals at this point, as Brent and Lisa both mentioned, construction was paused. So, getting suites built out to fit the needs of the tenant, there's a serious delay in that aspect of the transaction. Also keep in mind business development. It's been a little tricky getting in touch with people to kind of touch base. How's everything been going for you guys? What do you foresee the future to hold for the firm? That's been very, very challenging at this point. Yeah. I think we're fortunate enough that we've somewhat shifted during this COVID to get involved in a couple educational industry transactions. So working with a few schools right now that are keeping us very busy, but on the office side, I mean, it's as we said, it's definitely slowed down a bit. I do think it's coming back, but it's definitely made this business a little bit trickier. But there's opportunities out there. You just got to keep hunting, and you'll eventually find them.
Right. All right. We're going to move this. This has been great so far. So we're going to move this into our closing segment, Under the Spotlight, where we're going to put each of you under the spotlight, and you can give us your final point. So maybe it's a prediction. Maybe it's, one key takeaway you want the listeners to walk away from here. So Steve, since you got the first word on this whole thing, you have to start with the be under the spotlight first. So
yeah.
What do you got?
So I think my prediction, office is not dead. I think the layout and the design aspect of the office is definitely going to be changing in the future. And the way that the office is set up and orchestrated, that's definitely going to change. However, I truthfully do not believe that the office is dead. I do believe that you're always going to want a place to go, whether it's to collaborate with your fellow employees, to work on something that you can't really do over web chats and over phone calls. You're definitely going to need something.
Right.
So it's not that, it's just, let's wait and see what it's going to be like. No one really knows. It's only a prediction, but it's not going anywhere. And I'm not just saying that because I'm obviously a leasing broker.
There's some bias there. We need to make.
I'm very
let that be
biased
known.
for this.
Yeah.
It can't go away.
Right.
Just truthfully, I don't see it. Companies moving everybody remote.
Yeah.
It's just that's not a sustainable business plan in my mind. You're always going to need that physical office to go in and see people. It's just there's so many other aspects to an office people are overlooking.
Right. All right, Brent, you're under the spotlight next, my man. What do you got?
So just kind of piggyback off of what Stephen said is that, the human interaction factor of the world. We've been remote for a while now. And when I go in the office now, it brightens up my day. I see people, I see somebody smiles and it's not on a video screen. You're interacting. And I agree with Stephen 100% that the office space isn't going anywhere. But while we're figuring this out, always keep safety at the top of your list. Literally, wear your mask. Even if you don't like the mask, you don't like the way it makes you feel, wear the mask, wash your hands, be respectful of others. Because if you're healthy, somebody else might be immune compromised. This is a real situation we're dealing with right now, so let's just be smart about it.
Agree. Lisa, wrap us up. Take us home.
All right. So my personal belief is we all have short memories, and the vaccine will come. And once the vaccine comes, we will want our normal, or quote unquote normal.
Yeah.
But I think we will restore to a new and better normal that will factor in employee wellness. We'll certainly have aspects of HR support when people are out sick, support for people that have situations where they can't come to the office, and we'll have a new and improved perspective on how and where we work.
Awesome. That was great. So that wraps up our show. I want to thank our panelists, Lisa Brinkman, Brent Kozlowski, Steve Graziano for being on here. Couldn't have done it without you, obviously. For everybody listening, if you want to be a guest on the Morning Spotlight, if you want to hear us talk about a specific topic, go to themorningspotlight.com or email us at themorningspotlight@gmail.com, themorningspotlight@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram, like and subscribe to this, leave us some stars. That would be great. Guys, thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Mike.
It was a pleasure, guys.
And everybody else, thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.